have you ever realized that you don't speak a language nearly as well as you think you do? This is a career hazard for linguists. For me, this realization came when I was standing on the door stoop of an apartment in Paris that my friend Susan had arranged for us to sublet from a sommelier named Christian, who had left for us at the hotel that he worked at a packet which had the keys and detailed instructions for using them. And I'm like, yeah, I don't need instructions to use a key in a door, thank you very much. Except that I did. And I couldn't get the door open. And I'm reading this thing and it's about deux fois, trois fois. I don't even understand. I can't make heads and tails. I got a key and it's turning in every direction, it's turning multiple times. And my friend Susan says, let me try. Which for her meant coming up to the door. Now she's 5 foot nothing and 100 and nothing, this girl, but she is a force of nature. And what she does to the door is just go, boop, and the door goes, she ripped the door off its door frame. So I'm standing in the doorway now, and I have 2 thoughts. 1, we have to leave. 2, we can never leave. Because now I'm looking in the apartment and I'm seeing all the things that are going to be stolen over the course of this week that we're going to have to pay to replace. Susan, being of British extraction, decides that what she needs at this moment is a cup of tea. No problem so big it can't be solved by a cup of tea. I am standing at the door trying to figure out, I will come up with a plan. And my brain is working. I'm starting to pull up memories of like locksmith, building manager, help us please. When my nose is assaulted by 2 smells simultaneously. Perfume and rotting flesh. Now I'm really looking around this apartment with an eye to what the hell happened here. I see a very distressed looking bird, and I start stalking around the house, trying to find the origin of one or both of these smells, ideally. I find the perfume pretty quickly. It's a series of very hastily purchased air fresheners plugged in every orifice. I start collecting all of these, bringing them into the kitchen to throw them away, where I realize that Susan has all this time been working around another note. This time my French is just good enough to know that this is bad news. What I understand from it is, je regrette, je ne comprends pas, et je suis très désolée, mais ils sont morts, which is I am sorry, I don't understand, but they are dead. I said, Susan, get your coat, we are going out. It is a terrible part of Paris, it's the middle of the night, but we need to figure out what this note is telling us here, right? Like, there may have been a murder here. We have to figure this out. Turns out that, hey, can you help me translate this note, is a great pickup line. And maybe it just was the part of Paris in the time of night, but our responses were, mais oui, I speak English, but your eyes are going to make it distracting. Bien sûr, I can translate your note, but it will go much better over a bottle of wine. Or, mademoiselle, why do you care about this note? Tell us about your trip in Paris. And I said, well, I think there might be a dead man in my apartment. So we got the note translated. It turned out that a neighbor had been watching the apartment waiting for our arrival. And he didn't understand how it happened, but suddenly one day the fish tank exploded. And he writes in the note, I'm sorry, I don't understand, but I don't think that I found all of the bodies. He didn't. Yeah. But we made the best of our week in Paris. We understood soon enough why it was that the previous occupant had bought all these perfumes. We got into our routine. We'd wake up in the morning, pull the door off its hinges, say some words of comfort to this bird who had now started molting his feathers. My theory was that he'd watched what happened to his friends and decided that he was next. He did not like me. I don't know if any of you have had this experience with birds, like you walk in and you're like, hello, bird, and they go like this. Yeah, that was that bird. So, put the door back on the hinges, we'd head out for the day. And Susan, she never meets a stranger. There is no language barrier with her. She charms her way into everyone's hearts. You can be an old lady in the park, you can be a young artist on the Seine, you can be the Venezuelan football team. Susan's your best friend. Turns out they were in training, so we made plans to hang out with them on our last night in Paris. The plan was they were gonna meet us on our door stoop, and we were gonna paint the town red. It was gonna be our last night. We didn't know what was gonna happen. Except that as we were starting to get ready for this night on the town, I start looking around this apartment and think, what if I had been the person that sublet to these idiots, right? I'm gonna walk into my house and I'm gonna see the door off its hinges, I'm gonna see this bird that is now bald, and I tell Susan, no, we need to be here to explain to Christian what happened here. Like he deserves this much at least. So I say to her, you figure out how to get rid of the Venezuelan football team. I set about preparing my little message, right? I had the first note. This was to explain the thing that we were responsible for. The second note to explain the thing that we weren't responsible for. And then how to figure out how to explain the thing that nobody could explain. I started looking for a veterinarian sort of nomenclature. But this is when I walk over to the bird to really inspect, like, what is it exactly that's happened to this bird? And of course, the ubiquitous and I catch over in the corner what Susan has done to communicate to the Venezuelan footballers now is she's put herself in a nightgown and she's leaning out the bedroom to communicate, we are going to bed now. But she's saying, coucher, coucher, because she thinks this is a word that's something to do with the bedroom, right? And this effect on this crowd of footballers is not calming. So we've got a riot on our hands. Which is when Christian comes home. I go and I catch the door. Bonjour! And he takes in quick succession, apparent prostitute, bald bird. What is that smell? But I'm ready. My time in Paris had taught me a few things. I tell him, but Christian, your eyes! I did learn that it went much better over a bottle of wine. And I didn't ask him how his trip in Paris was going so far, because I kind of had an idea. But I began with my new phrases. Je suis très désolée. Je ne comprends pas, mais ils sont morts. Thank you.